Hi, I'm Rainer, and welcome to my train room. Today I've got a passenger car, actually an observation car here. So I picked this car up sometime last year at a train show, got it for a really good price. It's a Bud observation car, 85-foot Bud observation car. Now this one is painted for Delaware and Hudson. Now the Algoma Central Railway had a car very similar to this. The only difference was that the only obvious difference was that the windows on this end on the Algoma Central version were taller windows. Now, I haven't seen a model that's made with the taller windows, and so I am going to repaint this for Algoma Central Railway. I'm not sure. I haven't even had it out of the box, so I'm not sure if it's illuminated or not, or if it's got lights in it or not. But I'm going to see what I can do with that. Now, the inside of it looks like it's kind of this beige or off-white color. It does have an interior, but I think I'm going to paint it inside a little bit and maybe put some people inside. But anyway, I'm going to pull it out of the box and see what I can do with it. So it's a silver color. Well, let's get out of the box first here. I'm assuming it doesn't have lighting inside it. It doesn't look like it. It's got the metal wheels, but I don't see any pickups or anything like that on it. So I'll see what I can do. I'm going to pull this apart. I'm going to have to get the shell off of it, and then I'm going to have to see whether I can remove this writing. Most likely I'll end up repainting the whole car. I have some old scale coat aluminum paint, so I think I'm going to end up repainting this with the airbrush and putting all new lettering on it. I do have some Algoma Central Railway lettering for the Canyon View, which is what it was called on the ACR. So, and that was basically just a silver car with like a Tuscan red or maroon background here and here behind the writing, and I think it may have had a single solid line where the yellow line is on this. I'll have to look at the old photos. Actually, I'll put one up here for you so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to be pulling this apart and seeing what it takes to make this into the car I want it to be. So I've got it back together, running around the layout. Just going to go over what I ended up doing with it. So first of all, for the paint, I took the thing apart. The roof on these pops out with the windows. It's kind of like a wraparound clear plastic windows that are attached to the roof, and it pops out and slides out of the body shell. So I found that when I kind of twisted the body the way the instructions said to pop the roof, it didn't come out quite as easily as the instructions tell you it's going to, but it wasn't too bad. I had to kind of wiggle it and get a little bit of separation here, and then it slid out. I also then removed the trucks, removed the interior from it. Once I had it all apart, I masked over the clear plastic inside and outside the window plastic, the clear window glass, I guess, to make sure I didn't get any paint on that. And also there's a little lens at the back. It's supposed to be for a rear light. And I masked that over carefully because I wanted to make that light functional. So took it in the other room, gave it a coat of gray primer. Once the primer had dried really well, I gave it a couple of coats of the scale coat silver paint. It's an old railroad paint for anybody that's kind of newer. I don't think it's available anymore, but I have a bunch of old paint. Just thinned it down with some lacquer thinner and sprayed it on with the airbrush. And then these maroon, burgundy, whatever it is, little stripes here, the background for the Algoma Central, as well as the car name. Painted those carefully, just masking around them, and painted those with the brush, and then applied the lettering. Now I have lettering, I think it's from Black Cat for Algoma Central, as well as the name for the car, the Canyon View. So that part was fairly straightforward. For the interior, I took the interior out before I painted the car, and it was kind of this shiny beige plastic. So I just painted some different colors on some of the tables and the seats and some of the walls and things like that, just to give it a little bit of variety. It's not like anybody's looking really closely inside there, but I wanted to add a little bit of color to it. So I just grabbed some different colored model paints off the shelf and just painted some of the seats and things like that with a brush. Now, I also wanted to put lighting in this thing. And I know Walther's makes a passenger car lighting kit that you can buy that has the different trucks with the power pickups in them and the lighting for inside the car and everything. And here in Canada, I think it's somewhere around 40 bucks or 45 bucks, something like that. I really didn't want to spend that much money on putting lighting in here when I can do it a lot cheaper than that. So what I did was the trucks that the wheels that were on it were metal wheels, but they had plastic axles and there were no pickups on them at all. So what I did was I ordered some 36-inch wheel sets online. I got them on AliExpress, and they have metal wheels with metal axles. So I put one in the front truck and one in the rear truck here. And before I put them on, I got some of these little 3mm copper tubes, and I think these are actually intended to be like crimps for electrical wiring, but they're 3mm in diameter, and they're a nice fit. They just loosely fit over the axle, and they're just the right length. So what I did was I took two of those and soldered a nice piece of flexible wire onto each of them. And I don't know if you can see it here, but there's a wire soldered onto that tube, and there's a wire soldered onto this tube. And when I put these wheel sets on, these wheels have one wheel that's insulated from the axle and one that isn't. So I put an extra plastic washer in there to make sure that this copper tube doesn't make contact with the wheel that's insulated. And so when I put them on the car, I put it so that the wheel that's picking up the power is on this side on the front truck and on the other side on the rear truck, and ran the wires inside. That gives me pickup on two of the axles, and I know it's not going to be perfectly steady pickup, but that's okay because I put a keep alive in here. And I'll put it back on the track and it will light up again because I have the power on the tracks, and there we go. The lights, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a light here, there's a light there, and I also put a red bulb in the back to light up the rear light. So when it's going down the track, the red rear light is on. I also made myself a keep alive. Actually, while I was doing it, I made up 3 or 4 of them, and it's just this little keep alive, and there's one of these hidden inside there. This, I'm not going to put all the specs on here because this is something that I basically based it on something that Larry Puckett shows on his YouTube channel. He's got a few different designs on there. This is one that I happened to pick up and looked, and I had the parts for it. Consists of a bridge rectifier to convert the AC to DC, a resistor to control the charging rate for the capacitor, a capacitor, and then there's a potentiometer here so you can adjust the brightness of the lights. I put a little 4-pin plug on it to make it easy to attach so I could do everything else in there, and then plug this into the train car. So what I did in the car, in the front, there's like little sleeping berths. So I cut out a couple of the walls in the front of a couple of them, and this black tape I put on there, so I slide it down and it just looks like a couple of the windows are blacked out from the inside, and that's how I hid it in the car. Nice part with that is that it gives you very consistent lighting. I can pick this off the tracks like this, and the lights are still on. If I look at it, I can see they're slightly starting to dim, but it probably takes 20 or 30 seconds before they completely go out. So it means when you're running down the track, you don't have the lights flickering inside. It makes it very steady, the lighting. Beyond that, before I put it back together, I glued in some passengers in some of the seats. Like I said, one warm LED light up here, another one part back in here. You can see it more from the other side. Red light up in here. all wired to this Keep Alive. And that's about it. Oh, the other thing that I did was the rear coupler is body mounted with this funny mechanism in here. The truck moves freely, but the front one had a truck mounted coupler on it, and that didn't work very well. It kept derailing, so I cut that off the truck and body mounted a KD on here, and it works just fine. Now, for anybody that's new to this, what happens is some manufacturers will have body mounted couplers, and some will have like an extension on the truck, so the coupler kind of follows the track. And the real problem is when you mix the two. And most locomotives will have body mounted couplers. So when you're going around a corner, as it's going around a corner, the back end of the locomotive swings away from the center line because of the overhang. And if you have a car behind that with the truck mounted coupler, that coupler is going to want to stay in the middle of the track. And what happens is as the locomotive goes like this, goes around the corner, it pulls that truck mounted coupler off center, and the car tends to derail, especially on sharper corners. Now, if both cars have truck mounted couplers, they just follow the track and it's not an issue. It's when you have a locomotive or a passenger car or something like that with a fair bit of overhang, has a body mounted coupler connecting to another one with a truck mounted coupler, that's where you're going to start having issues. So what I generally like to do with all of my cars is just have body mounted couplers with all of them, and I'm just going to have less issues with it. I think the reason that some of them went with the truck mounted couplers is because if everything in your train has truck mounted couplers, it's likely going to stay on the track better on something like 18-inch really tight radius curves. I don't have anything like that on here. My minimum radius on this layout is 22-inch radius, and the body mounted couplers just work better overall and look more prototypical. Anyway, that's just a bit of an aside on different coupler mounting things. This had a truck mounted coupler on the front. I tried it, went around, and it was popping off the tracks because the car in front of it was pulling the truck sideways. And once I put the body mounted coupler on, the problem went away. Anyway, nice little project. Far more affordable to do the lighting this way. I've bought all these electronic components in bulk. A pack of 10 or a pack of 20 for very cheap online. These little copper tubes, again, didn't cost a lot, and I have 100 of them in here. Same thing with LEDs. If you look back at my older videos, I talk about the different LEDs that I've bought. LEDs, again, buying them online in bulk doesn't cost very much. And even the wheel sets, I bought a whole pack of 36-inch wheel sets. I used 2 in this car. I used the original axles for the other 2 because they were metal wheels. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just that I wanted that metal axle so I can use the power pickup for these copper tubes. Overall, to me, it makes sense if you're willing to do a little bit more work to just come up with your own way of lighting up the cars. It can save you a huge amount of money. I didn't really want to spend $40 on a lighting kit for a car that I didn't pay that much for the car even, so it didn't really make sense to me. Hopefully this gives you some ideas of how to do this if you're trying to do something with a passenger car of your own. And thanks for watching, and I will show some shots of it going around the layout now. See you next time.